Hello, you guys. Hello, hello. Happy Sunday. It's been a minute, right? It's been a minute since I've had Sundays in the studio with Sandy, and I thought it was about time. So I'm excited that you guys are here with me today to paint and play. So I've got a have had a busy week. Finished 3 designs, need to get them written. One of them's, let's see if I move which way. Nope, wrong way. The Be Happy design I'm going to do as a live. All right, you guys ready to paint? I'm gonna give it maybe a minute more and then we will get started. Anyway, all right, it's 2:05. You guys ready to get started? I posted this the other day. I taught this at Creative Painting in Vegas. Have loved it always. It comes in a pattern packet that's on my website. And it has 2 pages actually, because I taught the class, there were 2 pages. And this has 2 different, you can do it 2 different ways. I originally did this page, and then for the convention, I did a little tag. But again, loved this page since the day I painted it. And I thought it'd be fun real quick to go through. Let's zoom in just a touch. I do have a membership group. It is the Adventures of Art and Art Journaling. You can find that on my website. It officially opens next month. But I'll tell you right now, there are pay buttons on there if you wanted to subscribe monthly or yearly. But these are some of the pages that we've done since October of last year in my membership group. And all the lessons, all the videos for these pages that I'm going to share with you guys are on or in the group. So when you join, whether you join for a month or you join for a year, you have access to all the content from October of last year. All right. So one of the lessons we did in the group was I created on the front of my art journal. So in July, it was tropical month, and I'm just going to flip through these real quick. So I have some tropical pages, and I do create on both sides. I'll come back and create on these. They're not in any kind of order. I just threw them back into my journal. I taught this on one of Tracy Weinzappel's free art lessons, and that lesson is up. This page is up on my YouTube channel. So you can go there and watch how I painted and created this page. This is going to be a lesson in October on a Sundays in the studio with Sandy. Okay, and I'll let you guys know what date that is. I started sketching out a design and changed it, and so there it is. I just taught this with my membership group, I think last week. Did a whole bunch of barnwood backgrounds and stuff. So we had a fantastic lesson. I have guest artists that come on my group periodically. So Deb Antoinette came on, and we did this fun girl. But again, these are lessons that I have created. We have quarterly Zoom classes with my membership. This was one we did last month. It's just a double page spread. Isn't that fun and pretty? We're doing this one on the 27th of this month in my membership group. We're painting these Chinese lantern flowers. Again, just some fun backgrounds that I did. Some patina, using, metallics and paint to get a patina look. Again, another wood grain lesson that I taught in my membership. One of my favorite pages from July was just playing around with some of the tropical leaves. So another double page spread, which I had done. We also have challenges in my group, so I give them some line drawings to create and do something with. And yeah, we just have a lot of fun creating and playing, and I love that everything is in one place. And I also take it outside my art journal. If I absolutely love what I create and paint in my art journal, I will put it onto another surface. So I'm just gonna keep flipping. Don't you love that peacock, Linda? I love it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So again, one of the lessons we did, which, you know, kind of that bokeh background, out of focus. One of the very first lessons I did last October when I opened my membership group was we did monthly pages. So we did October and November. Then we did a word of the year. And, you know, everyone kind of did their own page, their word of the year, what the Pantone colors of the year, which not great colors to me, but, and then my favorite Deco Art Americana color. And then our first Zoom class of the year. And also when you join, you get access to that Zoom class as well. So, and then these are just some other pages I'm teaching soon. Oop, that bird made it in there twice. This is available at vikingwoodcrafts.com. Same with that one. One I did with the decorative painters group and lessons. And so again, why art journal? Why not is what I say. This is a place where you can come and play and create with techniques and paint. And again, I like to play here, and then if I want to take it, which I want to take this one to a canvas, you know, like maybe a 16 by 20, and spread it out with those feathers. And yeah, so I try and share as many techniques and tricks and things with my group as I possibly can. We have 3 to 4 live lessons a month. And of course, I would love to have you join us. And again, you can find all that information on my website at Sandy McTier Designs. We've got people from India and Australia and Madrid, Spain, and England, and all over Canada, all over the US. Not sure if Norway. So, okay, let's get on to today's lesson. So let's start with this page. I like to use, and I don't think I grabbed one, but I like a Grumbacher. How did you treat the cover? Good question, Linda. I did. I gessoed first, and then I just started painting. Well, this is one I bought because I'm plumb out. But Grumbacher mixed media paper. And it can come in and out of the art journal, which I love because I can create on it, put it back into my art journal. But like I was talking about, I painted this one and I loved it so much that I painted it on, this is an iPad stand from Viking Woodcrafts. And I don't think I have their link listed, but vikingwoodcrafts.com. And I loved it so much that I did the same technique, everything, right onto this wood surface. So play in your art journal, have fun, you know, kind of break the rules when it comes to painting, and just play and then take it to another surface. All right. So I'm just throwing everything on the ground today. What we're going to do first is gesso a page. Pick that art journal back up and grab a page so that I can show you. And on these, if you pinch the little binder rings, it will help you not tear these very delicate tabs. But I want to show you how I gesso my pages. Now, I don't gesso them always, but I do like treating the page with something before I paint most of the time, because the paper is going to grab that paint. The gesso is going to allow me to move that paint around, all right? And the way we're going to apply it today is with a palette knife. So I'm using acrylic. Jeannie, I'm using acrylic, and today I'm gonna use the media line, which is my favorite, but I'm also gonna give substitution colors, okay? So I'm out of my regular media gesso. Let me see if I have a black one. okay, because this is what the label looks like. So if you go to decoart.com, you can find under Fine Art, go to Media, and they have the best gesso. I love it. But since they were out, they also carry it in the Traditions line, and it's just as amazing. So I like a thicker gesso. If you're used to a thin gesso, then this might be a little too thick. You can always thin it down with water, but I'm going to show you how to apply it. So I just applied it to the back of my knife, and I'm going to apply it to that page, and I want it to stutter. So I want to go right over those tabs and everything. So I'm not covering all of the paper. It's going to have some places where you can see the paper. It's going to have a lot of gesso on it though, okay? So not a bunch of space left where there's no gesso. And just using that palette knife. Again, like I said, guys, I'm solo today, so I will go back and answer any questions if I don't look up and see them when you ask them. Hi, Debbie Visor. Hi, Ann. Hi, Carrie. Hi, Kathleen. What about chalky gesso? You absolutely could use chalky gesso on paper. It's not as thick as this, but it's a fantastic product. And I'm not saying that just because I helped the owner come up with it. But I love that product. Okay, so you can still see, I'm going to hold it up, how that gesso, that palette knife, it just stutters here and there. I love texture. Love that. All right. Now, I went ahead and did a page just to save some time. I'm going to move this one to the side. You always want to wipe off your palette knife and clean it. Hand sanitizer works great. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with palette knives or you use them a lot, but I do like one that has that little elbow. It helps be able to lay it and not scrape the handle or your fingers on your piece. So let's put the lid back on our gesso. All right. And so I have a page here that I've already done with gesso, and it has dried. And again, you can see some areas where there's just paper and then the areas of gesso. So again, like I mentioned, I'm going to use the fluid acrylics, which are my absolute favorite. DecoArt is in production making these. So look on their website. Don't let the price scare you. A little goes a long way. They're very, very highly pigmented, gorgeous colors, okay? So I'm gonna use cobalt turquoise hue. Now, if you don't have this, you can use something like desert turquoise, peacock teal. So good substitution for that. And I'm also going to use raw umber. If you don't have this, you can use raw umber in Americana. Not a big fan of burnt umber. I would use asphaltum. And of course you can't see that because I ripped the label, but it's asphaltum. All right. And then I'm also going to use Quinacridone Gold. Now, this is one of my favorite colors in the whole line. So Quinacridone Gold, if you don't have that, you can use burnt sienna, but see the difference? There's a little bit, I keep getting messages that they got a message from me. So Quinacridone Gold, not really a good substitute for this color because it's so unique, but you could use burnt sienna with a little touch of alizarin crimson in it, okay, to get kind of that reddish gold color. So I'm gonna go ahead and put some of these out on my palette here. So some Quinacridone Gold. I appreciate it. And also on my website, if you go to sandymctierdesigns.com, at the bottom of the page, you'll see some DecoArt bottles, and you can click on that. I do have an affiliate link with them. So let's put that there. Now, we want our page to be streaky aged. And let me just tell you that every time you do this, you're going to get something different. Even the page I already prepped for us for today is slightly different because your colors go places one time that maybe they're not going to go the next time, all right? And I don't know how I did, but I ended up getting some pink on the page. I do know in the instructions it doesn't say use pink, but I pulled some of that quinacridone magenta because I love it. I love it here and there on that page. So I'm going to sprinkle that in later. But we want to take a brush and a paper towel. So nice clean paper towel. Of course, I like Viva because they're soft. I'm going to wet my brush and I want to wet the page. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a nice little coat of water. Nothing major. You could always spritz it with a little water bottle. All right, and then I'm just going to start laying on some color. So I'm going to pick up some of the Quinacridone Gold and kind of put that here and there. It really is this simple, guys. Just plain, having fun with that color. Now I'm going to rinse out my brush. And pick up some of the raw umber and try and see where I have it on my original. But again, it really does not matter where you place it, where you put it. I will show you how to come back and introduce colors where you want them, intentionally where you want them. Again, my page is kind of dry from the studio light, so I'm just going to pick up a little bit of water in my brush. All right, rinse out my brush. Pick up this gorgeous cobalt turquoise, and I know that I want some here. And when the turquoise and the quinacridone gold meet, they kind of make a green, which is super pretty. Again, just kind of slapping that color on. I know my sunflower up here, I have some of that color. All right, now we want to tone it down a little bit. So I'm going to lift this up, clean off my silicone mat here. I use an extra large silicone baking mat from Amazon. Keep meaning to go on there and get an affiliate link and put that on for you guys because so many of y'all have it. And then I want to take a paper towel and I'm just going to soften the color a bit. So the harder you press, the more color you're going to lift. All right, so I'm just going to lightly press and move that color around. I see that I missed a little there, so guess what? Your fingers work great. Just pick up some of that color. And I'm loving this page even more than the one I prepped. All right, now if I wanted to take a little bit more of that color away, I could come in with a baby wipe. I want to maybe lift a little color there. Okay, and if you do too much, the reason I wanted to lift it was because I wanted to put some of this blue here. So again, I'm just going to use my finger. Just kind of spread that on with that paper towel. Okay, now once you get your design on, if you're like, it's a little too dark, I want to lighten it up just a little. You have a couple choices. Hi, Lori. So you can use Gesso, or you can come back with some Titan Buff. And so I want to put some raw umber over here. And you'll see when I come over to the page I've already prepped for today, you know, the background's going to be slightly different every single time you do it, just so it's not a big old space. All right, so Titan Buff or Gesso. I'm just going to use Titan Buff. And I can come in with my palette knife and I can scrape a little bit of that on. And then I just like to go over it a couple times with my palette knife. So if you want to add a little bit down here, I like for it to stutter so I don't look how little I have very, very little paint on my palette knife. And again, the fluid acrylics are thin, transparent for the most part. You can use your fingers to soften it out. You could even come back to your paper towel and see how that will soften it to give you kind of that look on my finished page. So get your color on there, and if you're like, I want to, lighten that up, do so with the palette knife. When you get the design on there, if you're like, I really want some raw umber over here, you can take that palette knife and do the same thing. Or if you want to bring some of that color back in, okay, and use that palette knife, it's just going to give you more texture. But this is what I absolutely love, and that's the gesso. So you get that stuttered look from the gesso. The paint reacts differently on the gesso to the paper. So just, you can just get lost in these backgrounds, playing with the paint, layering. Again, I love to layer with the palette knife, with my brushes, and with my fingers. Okay, so again, you can lighten things up, darken things up. And this page does have a border of dark all the way around it, which I'll show you at the end of our lesson. All right, so again, just a nice, fun, aged background. So let's move that to the side, clean up our space just a little. Because I already prepped a page, just to save a little bit of time. Y'all don't need to sit here and watch me base coat in the design. I'm just gonna flip my palette pad, and I'm just using a disposable gray palette pad. All right, so similar background, and sometimes your pages will curl a little bit, but I have to tell you guys, the gesso treatment on the journal page, this paint has a little bit of a sealer in it. Can you see there's a little bit of a sheen and shine? And then I like to finish mine with soft touch varnish. You can get that in many of the different lines DecoArt has. DuraClear, soft touch varnish. I think they also have it in the DIY line, but it just makes it feel like leather. So nice and super thick and just so pretty. Okay, so look what happens with that same background. Very similar because I used the same colors. And again, like I said, I want to throw some pink in there. Even though it's not on my pattern packet, it wasn't intended. I'm just going to use my finger because I just like it here and there. Again, if you get too much or you want to soften it out, just use a little paper towel. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of pop some on the, I paint the tabs and everything. I could tape it off, but I just like that it's painted left or right, the whole thing. All right, so let me tell you how I base coated this. And that's all the pink I'm going to add right now. I might add more later. Oh, I do want to add some right down here. I see it on my original. See, I'm just dabbing it with my finger. Now, it is important. Are you using a silicone mat? Yes, Wendy Warner. That's my maiden name, by the way, Warner. I am using a silicone baking mat. So if you go on to Amazon, put in extra large silicone baking mat. I put in white. They sent me gray. Couldn't be happier. Love that they sent me gray instead of white. All right, so I went ahead and base coated in. I transferred on the line drawing that comes in the pattern packet. So you will, if you bought the pattern packet, like I said, it comes with 2 pages, but comes with your line drawing. Transferred that on, and then I base coated in the leaves and the stems with a mixture, just a brush mix. I picked up sap green, picked up Payne's gray. Painted in the leaves, the stems, 2 coats, all right? If you don't have those, you can use Plantation Pine and Payne's Gray. If you don't have Payne's Gray, soft black will work fine, okay? So we're going to go ahead and take care of our stems and our leaves. So a little bit of Payne's Gray, a little bit of sap green, and again, if you don't have those, plantation pine, Payne's Gray, or soft black. And then another one of my favorite colors, some green gold. The pink in Quinacridone Magenta in the media line. The pink, yes, so sorry. Thank you, Molly Ann, for, it is pink and it is Quinacridone Magenta. If you don't, let's get that to focus. If you don't have this, you could use a little alizarin crimson. Just such a pretty, pretty color. All right, green gold. Now, again, there really isn't an Americana color that matches green gold. You could use matcha green. Irish moss is an old discontinued color, but still pretty. I'm going to use citron green because it's one of my favorite in the Americana line, you know, if I were to substitute. So green gold. And we already have Titan Buff on our palette. I'm going to use that. And let's also get out a little bit of cobalt teal hue. Okay, this is probably my favorite color in the line. If you don't have that, you could use, see, there just really is no great, there's no great substitute. You could use Bahama blue, turquoise blue, Indian turquoise, but we're just going to use this sparingly, so we need just a little. All right. Now let's take care of our stems and our big leaves. The little leaves, I'm going to leave those and come back to them later. All right, because I want to do my flowers first. So let's zoom in so that you can get a good picture of that. All right. Thank you so much, Carrie, for putting that link in. Sap green is so hard to find. Yes, it is, Linda. I know. I know. Not sure if it's available yet, again, on DecoArt's website or if they're out. Now, let me go and share with you guys, too. You can see my transfer lines through the sunflower. I base coated that with yellow oxide. Okay. Raw sienna will work fine. Marigold, antique gold, you know, any kind of a gold mustard color to base in. I didn't bother to paint them white first. That would take away the line. If your transfer's too dark, you can always come in with the Factus Black eraser and erase some of those lines before you paint it. I do have these on my website now. If you look under the More tab and go to the miscellaneous page, you will see it. If you just go to the miscellaneous page from the front home page, it's not there. My website right now is a little screwy and weird. So, okay, so stem first. I'm going to use like a number 6 flat. You can use an 8 flat, 6 flat, but go ahead and get it wet. Dry it off. And I'm going to brush mix. I'm going to pick up some Payne's Gray, some sap green, about equal parts. Okay? And I'm going to paint in my stem. First, all the stems, and just go right over. So it's going to make it nice and dark. I like to paint in layers. So again, this is the 3rd coat of Payne's Gray and sap green on there. Pretty solid, pretty opaque right now, even though these are transparent colors. I'm going to wipe off my brush. Not going to rinse it. I'm just going to wipe it off. I'm going to pick up some clean sap green, some green gold, and a little touch of Titan Buff. Swipe it across my paper towel. And I'm going to swipe the brush. Oop, wiped off too much. I'm going to swipe the brush and let it pick up where it picks up. Now, this stem goes over that stem. Can you guys even see that? There's a little bit of a glare. Let me hold that up. See how subtle it is right now? Okay, and that's because I'm wet on wet. Picked up a little more Titan Buff. Put that on, swipe my finger. Put that on, swipe my finger. Okay, a little here. And I don't know why, it's habit, but I also feel like sometimes when I swipe it with my finger, it softens that paint, softens that look. We're just going for a little bit of a highlight on there. Okay, we will add another one later. So sap green, green gold, Titan Buff. I just saw your comment, Robin. We have really pretty cloudy sky right now down here in middle Georgia. And I know my son's up in Atlanta, so it's storming up that way, and we are expecting it later tonight. So, okay. So again, just bring that color around, highlight that stem, and pull it down. I think you guys could probably see that one a little bit more, right? And we'll shade the other side just to make sure that we've got a nice rounded stem look. Again, just kind of putting that on. The paint's still a little wet. My brush is not. I have very little paint on it. All right, now I'm just gonna wipe that off, pick up a little more Titan Buff, and I wanna come over here, and I'm just dressing my brush. So pretty much all the color was off it. I'm just gonna dress it with that same mixture, swipe it across my paper towel, pick up some cobalt teal hue, and swipe some of that off. And I'll swipe that. Oh, I love, love, love. Let me hold that up so you can see it. You see that really pretty, bright, it just adds that punch, and over that green gold, I just love it. Okay, so a little bit more. Brush it on. I'm gonna swipe my paper towel because I don't want too much. I wanna control how much I put on. Then a little bit more, swipe it off. There we go. Okay, so for right now, we are done with that. I'm gonna rinse that brush out. Magic fingers. Thank you, Denise. Yes, I tend to use my fingers a lot in painting. It softens it so much easier than me having to put my brush down, pick up another brush like a mop, and soften things out. So that's what I go for. All right, let's take care of the big leaves. Again, we'll take care of the smaller leaves in a second. I'm just gonna grab a quick sip of water. So we're gonna repaint the leaves. Let's clean up some of that mess. We're gonna repaint the leaves again with our mixture, sap green. And I'm gonna use a 3/4 flat. Sap green, Payne's gray, sap green, Payne's gray. Brush mix, not down to one color. One reason I love to brush mix my colors is because it gives you a variation. If I sat there with a palette knife and I made it down to one dark green color, they're all cookie cutter. It's exactly the same. You're starting with the same color. Sometimes I pick up more sap green, sometimes I pick up more Payne's gray, and I think it just gives you a pretty look to the finished piece. So I'm just gonna slightly turn the page, and again, there's a slight glare. Again, that's the finish that's on these in these paints, which are amazing. I'm so excited that they will hopefully be available soon. Not in stores, most likely you will have to order them online, but I am going to carry them. So they will be in my store as soon as I can get my hot little hands on them. All right, so Payne's gray, sap green. Now I'm gonna wipe off the brush really well. I think I'm spoiled. Yes, Norma Jean, this is recording. Maybe I'm wrong, but DecoArt won't ship to Canada. No, Linda Martin, but when I carry them in my store, you can order them from me. So, and I do ship to Canada. Okay, so sap green, green gold. Work that in. Little touch of Titan Buff. Let me show you my palette here. Sap green, green gold, little touch of Titan Buff. Work that in. Gonna get a little bit of this olivey color. I'm going to swipe it across my paper towel just because I don't want a lot of excess paint. And I want to get in a stem. It's going to help me know how far I'm going to pull my stroke in. So everything goes towards the base of that leaf. These are very loose, strokey leaves, all right? So I'm going to start at the edge, pull in, pull in, pull in, pull in. Okay, the other side. I always do one side better than the other. How about you guys when you're painting leaves? So I'm trying to keep my hand out of the way as well, but I will come back with a little bit more paint. Swipe that on. I want a little bit brighter, a little more Titan Buff. Okay, so everything is angled toward the base of that leaf. Now, because I went over that, just got another message. So far in, I can come back with my sap green and a little bit of Payne's gray, and I can go the opposite direction, just a little. And I think for those other leaves, I'm going to switch brushes. Even though in the pattern packet it says a 3/4, I'm going to switch to like a 14 or number 12 even. Okay, and then slide that stem in. Now, I want to come back with a little bit of that cobalt teal hue. So I just added it right to my brush. And I want to pull just a couple, maybe a touch of Titan Buff to that. There we go. Little Titan Buff, little cobalt teal hue. And I'm not going all the way down the leaf, just in a couple places. But look at how pretty that dark green in the center, light green pulled from the edge. Yes, you do, and everything is like getting a gift. Special, oh, thank you, Linda. Yes, I have no problem shipping all over the world. So, and if you order from my website, right at the very top, it says your shipping probably will be looking crazy on the amount until I go back and refund, because my website does by item. So, all right, let's go down to this leaf, and I am going to switch. This is like a half, it's a half, but it's a 12 or 14 size. Some sap green, Payne's gray, or plantation pine and Payne's gray. Okay, paint that leaf. Wipe off the brush. Sap green, green gold, Titan Buff. I'm going to get some more Titan Buff out. And if I didn't give you a substitute for Titan Buff, light buttermilk. Okay, light buttermilk is a good substitute. Bleached sand is another color that's, you know, pretty comparable to Titan Buff. I did this, again, this class was, two years ago, I think, or last year, 2020 in Vegas. And of course, we could get all the colors, everything we needed. So I didn't put a substitute color chart in the e-packet, but I probably should. All right, so green gold, sap green, Titan Buff, work that in. If you have too much, swipe it across your paper towel. Chisel edge of the brush is on the edge of the leaf. And I'm going to pull in and toward the base of that leaf. So right in that area. So that's where I'm going toward. I'm not going to. Okay, I'm gonna start on this side. And I say that because I'm not pushing hard. It's almost like I'm flicking the brush. So more paint, swipe it off, flick, flick. Chisel edge is right on the edge of that leaf. And then again, if you want to come back from the center, a little bit of green gold, Payne's gray. Wipe it off. Pull in that stem. Wipe it off. Pick up some cobalt teal hue, Indian turquoise, Bahama blue will work. And pull a couple strokes. Just here and there, but not everywhere. Okay? Now, I love, do you have any Titan Buff or others in stock? Yes, Nancy, I do have quite a few colors. I just don't have them on my website yet. So you can always private message me and let me know what colors you're looking for, and I'll let you know what I have. I don't think I have Titan Buff though, now that I think about it. That or white. Okay, so what I was holding that up to show you and then messed it up, stroking, I thought I had green on there, and here I have Titan Buff. As I said it, I picked it up. I don't mind if my brush gives a little bit of a jagged edge on my leaf. I think it looks a little more natural, and so I leave it. All right. Now, I don't have it as much on that one as I do on my finished one. Let's go there. Okay, so see how I just went right outside the leaf? It's a little jagged. My number one rule in painting is if you like it, leave it. If you don't, there's a way to fix it. Always a way to fix it. Okay, so let me get out a little more Titan Buff. You're so welcome, Nancy. Thank you, Mary. I love these leaves too. They're super easy. They're quick. They look like a leaf, right? Painterly, Payne's gray, sap green. Lay on that paint. Wipe it off. Sap green, green gold, Titan Buff. I'm going to swipe it across my paper towel because I already know I have a little too much. Pull in that stem, and I'm just sliding on the chisel edge. Think of it like you're ice skating on the tippy tips of those bristles. Very thin, and you just move at the same rate. Okay, right on the edge. Oops, a little too much. Pull, 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 pull. Pick up a little more. Pull from the other side. I'm just going to softly go over it a second time. Wipe off my brush. I'm loving the look that I've done on the others, coming back with that sap green and Payne's gray. So I'm just going to do that from the center out. Wipe it off. Cobalt teal hue, tiny touch of Titan Buff. Pick up, paint a couple little strokes on one side, maybe a couple on the other. Okay, that's our leaves. Easy, easy peasy, right? All righty, so let me clean this up. So there are our leaves and our stems. Now what I'm going to do before we move on is come in with my 1/4 inch angle, get a little bit of water in my brush, come over to my palette. I love angle brushes. Pick up a little bit. I used to only use flats, but I don't know, just a huge fan of angle brushes. All right, and I'm just working it on the toe only. So if you're not familiar with angle brushes, that's the toe. Smaller side is the heel. And we're gonna float some of this Payne's gray onto, I need a little bit more moisture. And this is a Lana Lamb trick, let me show you. And I'm using one of her stencils today. I'll give you her link later. But a little bit of water, if you stick that on your palette, so when you're floating, again, loading your brush, you need a little moisture in it. Sometimes if we go to our water basin, we pick up too much. If you come here, you pick up just a little. All right. So what I want to do is I want to shade just a little bit on one side of our stem. So right where these two meet, I'm going to float some of that color. So now they're separated. Okay. And above that, get a little bit more. I'm going to float on the bottom side of this stem so that my brush is flat and the toe with that paint is right along that edge. Okay, again, just making it look like it's a round stem, taking something that's flat and making it dimensional. So I put a little there, and then let's run that right down that stem there. If you didn't feel like you got enough in your leaves, you can always come back and, you know, float some there, but I'm liking them, so I'm gonna leave mine. All right, let's come to this one. I'm gonna turn it. It's a little easier to pull it than it is to push it, so get some of that in there. All right, so there are our stems and our leaves for right now, okay? Let's go to this top sunflower because it's super quick and easy. I'm going to zoom in. All right, now this sunflower, let me show you the finished one, is kind of a hodgepodge of colors. Can you see that? The petals are not real exact. They've got all different colors on them. I even came in and washed in some of that Quinacridone Gold underneath it because I wanted it to show up a little bit more on the page. And then our green little leaves will come in last. But what I want you to notice is this is very painterly. It's not real exact. I'm not sitting here doing a precise stroke. It's layered color, and I love that look. So I'm going to come back in with my number 6 flat. You can use an 8 flat. So let's talk about our sunflower colors. Again, I base coated mine in with yellow oxide. You can use antique gold, marigold, any mustardy yellow color is going to work fine for you. Raw sienna will work fine too. So that was my base. Then I'm going to use Dari-Lide Yellow. Now I know this color, right, Robin, is so hard to come by. It's such a great color. In the Americana line, you can use saffron yellow. If you don't have saffron yellow, take a yellow, add a little bit of orange to it. It's a very orangey yellow, all right? I think Folk Art School Bus Yellow is pretty similar to this Dari-Lide Yellow. And Dari-Lide sounds much better if you say it with a Southern accent. So Dari-Lide Yellow, I'm gonna put some of that on my palette. And then I'm going to use Hansa Yellow Light. You can use yellow light, cadmium yellow to give you a similar look. Okay, so again, we started with the kind of a gold undertone, the Dari-Lide Yellow, and the Hansa Yellow Light. Okay, and Titan Buff. So my palette is going to be in the way. Let's see if I can come here. Nope, not gonna be able to show you my palette. I'll try and hold it up if I do anything special, but pretty much what I'm gonna do is load my brush with Dari-Lide Yellow first. Now, I don't dip it into a bunch of paint. Always love to watch you paint, thinking about starting a media book. Thanks for, oh, that's amazing, Bobby. Thank you so much. Again, art journaling is so fun. It's a great place instead of having to get 1,000 different surfaces, which I have, but I like to play there first and then take it to a surface that I love. So look, I'm gonna pull some of that Dari-Lide Yellow out to the side, work that in, okay? And I'm going to swipe. I'm just gonna swipe it on these petals, swipe. Now, let me show you, I am doing a little bit of a technique here. Chisel, sliding, pushing flat. Chisel, sliding, pushing flat. And I'm flicking it. So I'm not sitting here going, okay, I've got to get that whole petal, got to get that whole petal. I want it all covered. That's not what I'm doing. Slide, push, flick. So if it goes on the whole petal, great. If it doesn't, it's going to show more of that golden undertone. And I love that look. Okay, so that is Dairy Light Yellow. Then I'm going to wipe off my brush, pick up a little bit of Hansa Yellow Light. This is so highly pigmented, you just need a little. And I like to pull it away from the main puddle, work it into my brush. It's always easy to get more. Now I want to use less, all right? So I don't want to push as far. I'm just going to flick it. Going to start at the chisel edge and flick. Oops, a little bit of a ridge there. See how I just helped that along with my finger? I don't want a ridge. Just swipe it with your finger. All right, and let's get a little bit there. Wipe it off. I'm going to come back to my palette, pick up a little bit of the yellow, touch of Titan Buff, just to lighten it. Swipe that across my paper towel, and I'm just going to highlight some of the tips of these petals, not all of them. And let me remind you guys, when you're painting, we're here. I'm looking down at my piece. I'm very close to it. It's a really good idea to constantly hold it up, hold it back, step back from it. I love painting on an easel. Again, back to my oil painting days. But when we're here, we think we see everything that looks wrong. And these little touches, this way of painting, a lot of times that swipe of the brush is exactly the look you're going for. So don't try and fix it thinking that something is wrong until you step back and looked at it from a distance, because 9 times out of 10, I promise you're probably going to go, wow, that actually looks good. Okay, so again, just swiped with a little bit of that Hansa Yellow Light, a little bit of Titan Buff. Now what I want to do is I want to come in with some raw umber. So I'm going to come right over here to my palette, pick up some raw umber just on the corner. I could go to my angle brush, but I'm just going to stick with this one. And what I want to do is I want to come up underneath some of these petals, separate them a little bit more. Imagine that this part of your flower you're seeing is this part of your flower that you're seeing. Okay, it's the front side of that sunflower, and the center is up here. So I am going to put a little bit of that brown right along that top and just kind of mush it around with my finger. Come back to my palette, pick a little bit of that raw umber up on the corner of the brush, slide it in, help separate some of these petals. And then I'm also going to go to some Quinacridone Gold. Again, if you don't have this, little burnt sienna. Same corner, just load that on. That's just going to add some really pretty tones to that sunflower. A little bit more, yeah, loving that. Okay, kind of put that on. And if you get too much or if you get too straight of a line, just come back with some of your yellow, and kind of swipe it right over it. Okay, I feel like I need to highlight the tip right there a little bit more, just to make it a little brighter. And there was another one I saw. I think maybe those right there. Okay, that playing game of light and dark. All right, now I'm going to come back with a little bit more of that raw umber. And we're going to do a whole treatment around the edge of this page. But I can just kind of mush that around with my finger. Okay. Oh, so do I, Mary. Is it Zelenka? I just went to the Van Gogh exhibit in Atlanta. It was amazing. And I actually did something I probably shouldn't have. I accidentally walked out. I accidentally walked out with this. So I don't think I was supposed to. I think I was supposed to turn it in, but what am I going to do now? Okay, let's take care of the leaves on this little sunflower here. I already have my green, sap green Payne's Gray and my green gold out. So I'm going to just put my palette right here so that you can see it. Let's pull that up. These are quick, easy, very not exact, precise. The look of green, you know, of the green leaves that are underneath the sunflower. So sap green, Payne's Gray, work that in, and I'm just going to repaint just little swipes. So again, starting on the chisel edge and push toward my flower, or start here and push out. Just little swipes of color. Wipe off my brush, sap green, green gold, tighten buff. Swipe my paper towel, and I'm going to pick up a little more tighten buff, and I'm just going to start on the chisel edge and swipe. See how that highlights it? Just enough. Just swipe. Very light pressure. I'm not pushing my brush hard. Touch, pull, touch, pull. Pick up a little more. Again, we certainly don't want to make it look like it's just a stroke sitting on top. We want to kind of integrate that, so use your finger to soften it. For the yellow oxide, antique gold is what you can use. For the Dari Light Yellow, you can use saffron yellow. For Hansa Yellow Light, you can use, you know, yellow light is probably what I should have grabbed. Cadmium yellow will work just fine. I'm using Titan Buff. You can use bleached sand or light buttermilk in place of that. All right, let's move on to this sunflower right here. And I was just looking at how long after applying gesso do you have to wait before you start painting? Do you recommend gessoing several pages at once? So Bobby, yes, this is my thing on gesso. If you are not in the mood to paint and you've got a creative block, sit in gesso pages. That movement of doing something creative is going to help you move forward and be creative. I use a heat tool to dry my gesso. So I use the absolutely love this heat tool. It's a Ranger Heated craft tool. I do have these on my website, just got a new shipment in. They are quiet and they work really quick. So I'll dry my gesso. But again, if I'm not in the mood to do anything, I really need to paint, but I don't know what I want to paint, I gesso some pages, okay? Again, I don't always gesso. Sometimes I use matte medium. I'll do my design and then put matte medium over it. Again, the paint will go on top of the matte medium instead of on the paper. So, all right, let's take care of this big guy right here. I'm going to come back to my Dari Light Yellow. You're so welcome. I feel kind of neglected. I didn't get a message from the fake Sandy. I'll send you one later, Molly Ann. Too funny. All right. So again, I'm going to slide and pull it down. Sliding on the chisel, pull it down. Slide on the chisel, pull it down. Slide and flick. Chisel edge, slide, flat. So if I don't cover up all the yellow oxide, that's fine. Yes, it's so frustrating. I wish those people would use their IT and tech to do something good instead of hacking people on Facebook. But I can't do anything about it right now because the way they've changed the pages, I have to switch back over to my main profile. And I use my phone and my iPad when I do these lives on Switcher Studios, and so it is occupied. That's why I have another iPad on the way. All right, so slide. I don't know why I'm going from there out. I like going from the tip in. Okay, from the tip in. Now, that was the Dari Light Yellow, or again, saffron yellow, picking up some Hansa Yellow Light, swipe, not trying to cover everything up, just putting that color on. And I think you can see how that lays right on. And this is what I'm going for, guys. See how you can see the yellow oxide base. I can see the Dairy Light Yellow. I can see the Hansa Yellow Light. That's exactly what you're going for. Very painterly. Slide on the chisel and pull. Slide and pull. And I don't like that little ridge. That means I have too much paint on my brush. So I'm just going to swipe it with my finger. And what's funny is I like texture, but I just don't want that little ridge there. So slide and pull. Again, if I've missed any questions, I promise I will go back when this is over and look and answer any questions you might have. If one of your questions is where you can get this pattern, you can get this pattern on my website, and it comes with a second page, and you can paint this on any surface. Does not have to be on a journal page. Same technique to create it on whatever surface you're using, to include the gesso background. Okay. All right, so that was the Hansa Yellow Light. I'm gonna wipe off my brush. Do you use an overhead camera or iPad? Janet, I use, so in front of me I have my iPad. Above me I have my iPhone. I use a platform called Switcher Studios, and it lets them talk to each other. And it goes through their server to Facebook, and sometimes that can cause a little bit of issue, but I've been very pleased with that service. When I do Zoom, I have an overhead camera, document camera that I use when I travel teach. Okay, now that we've gotten the Hansa Yellow Light, I'm going to keep a little bit of that in my brush, pick up some Titan Buff, work that into my silly people. There is no duplicating the real sand. Oh gosh, if I could, I would, let me tell you. Okay, so a little bit of that Hansa Yellow and Titan Buff. Now I don't want to make these too bright, so I can pull a little bit of color, but I'm going to swipe it just to soften it. Okay, I swiped too far down, but I definitely want this color up in the front, because these petals are a little closer to us. I want them to stand out more. It's going to push those petals back, giving our flowers some dimension. Okay, we'll pull that one over, pull that one over. This one, we'll even pull it from here down because I want to show that that flips. And I paint sunflowers, guys, different just about every time. Depending on what the look is that I'm going for. So sometimes it's, base coat it one color, you're going to highlight it, you're going to shade it. This is very painterly. And this is one thing, like I said, that I love to do in my art journal, is just to play and have fun. I know that I have many of my members in the comments here, and we have a great time creating together 3-4 times a month. So check it out on my website, think about it, give it a shot. If you have any questions, you can always email me. I'm going to pick up a little more of the Hansa Yellow and Dairy Light on those that I think I pulled too much of that Titan Buff. Okay. I even have a testimonial page on my website from the people in my group and what joining and being a part of that group has meant to them. So you can read that as well. So see how those lighter really just kind of pull those petals closer to you. Could use the same technique using the gesso on wood. Absolutely, Anne. So, and I have a piece I'll show you. It's right behind me. Let me grab it. Great question. I'm going to zoom out here just a little. Get that button. Oops, that's in. Hello. You want to see a sunflower up close? Okay. So this piece is on a wood canvas panel. All right. I did the same technique with the gesso in the background. This is going to be a lesson with my membership group as well. So you can see the texture of the gesso in the background. So the very first thing I did was I did seal it with multi-purpose sealer, okay? And then came in with the gesso. But that creates, there's nothing else in the sky except gesso and the paint colors. And I loved how it made it look like you could see clouds. Same thing with the mountain. The way I put the gesso on, it just created ridges that look like the mountain. And I don't know, I loved painting it. Same thing with the foreground here where our poppies are, you know, that it looks like you've got a little bit of that dirt trail because the gesso. So yeah, all right. So let's zoom in just a little bit more. Okay, and let's pull in just a little on these petals. I feel like they kind of got a little neglected. All right. Now, what I want to do for this flip is darken up just a bit on the back end of it. So this petal right here flips backwards. Let me come to that right there. Okay, so see right there? Easy swipe of the brush. I'm going to wipe off my brush. I'm going to pick up some raw umber just on the chisel edge of the brush. So let me come here. I have just enough on my palette. I can pick up a little bit of raw umber, work that in. I don't want too much. So I like to kind of move that around on my palette, making sure it's worked in, or swipe it across my paper towel. I'm going to come right up underneath it, touch, and pull. Okay, and swipe it with my finger. Now I want to warm that up a little. Little Quinacridone Gold. Do the same thing. Okay, and then remember on this one up here where we separated some of those petals with the raw umber, I want to do the same thing. So thank you, Henriette. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of that raw umber on the corner of my brush, just one corner. Work that in. You can see there's a little moisture in my brush. I could go back to the angle brush, but like I said, I've already got this one in my hand. So, and then separate some of these petals just a little bit more. Okay, definitely under there. Very soft, nothing too harsh. I'm starting with raw umber. I'm going to come back in with some Quinacridone Gold. These are the little, you know, things I like to do in my art journal. Floating, I know, is not a great fun thing that a lot of people like to do. People struggle when they float color. But here I can just be a little looser. I can be a little, you know, not as exact and just play with it. You know, you get a really cool, effective look than going, I have to put a shadow right there. You know, just I kind of tap in my floats instead of one long continuous pull of the brush. I have a little petal back there. Alrighty. So I do want to get just a couple more of these with that raw umber. Then again, same corner, just picked up a little Quinacridone Gold. And this flower does get a little bit extra treatment. Of course, it has the only center of the three. And I'm just going to put in some of this Quinacridone Gold, just like I did with the raw umber. See how I'm touching it with my finger, just to kind of soften it out. So we're going to put some of that in, but it also has a little bit of orange. Okay, so I'm going to rinse that off, go to my 3/8 angle. Thank you so much, Peg. I love doing backgrounds. Come in with my orange. In my packet, it's Cad Orange Hue. I have none of that. So I'm going to use a little Pyrrole Orange, You can also use a little jack-o'-lantern, okay? This is just gonna warm it up a bit. The Quinacridone Gold works just as well. Oops, need to shake that. And I will come back with a little Quinacridone Gold to warm that up just a little. But you wanna do this step before you get into to the center, okay? So a little bit of that Pyro Orange on the toe of my angle brush, and I'm just going to float in right at the base, and you don't want to do it around the entire flower. So I'm just going to do it on these back petals. See how loose and light? Just kind of tapping that in. I can come on to some of the petals just to give them a little bit of warmth. Rinse out that brush. I'm going to pick up some Quinacridone Gold. Actually, I'm going to dry that first, because I think that's going to move if I don't. Okay, just kind of get a little bit of that glow on there. Then I want to brighten up some of these petals a little more. So I'm going to get out some titanium white. Of course, your equivalent would be titanium white. Come back to my flat brush. I'm going to pick up some of the Hansa Yellow Light, touch of white. Work that in. You can see that at the top of the screen there. Just a little brighter and lighter. The Titan Buff's going to mute it. The white is going to brighten it. And I just want to brighten some of these, especially the front of that flip. Okay, not to neglect these guys, just a touch, but then soften it out. All right, now let's take care of that center. So I'm going to rinse that brush. I'm going to come in with, I already did the centers with raw umber and Quinacridone Gold on my brush. Again, you could use asphaltum, raw umber in the Americana line, a little bit of burnt sienna. And I just tapped in on the corner of my brush some of that color. And I like to kind of come up in between those petals just a little bit. See, I'm not drawing an oval. I don't want that harsh line. I just want there to be some texture. Okay, now let's dry that. All right, I'm going to come back to my 3/8 angle, and I'm going to pick up on the corner, just on that toe, pick up some Payne's Gray, work that in, and a little tiny touch of raw umber. Okay, because I already have raw umber in the center, it's going to not be as harsh looking. And right along the base of this, I'm going to float in that color just to kind of ground that center a little bit more. Again, Payne's Gray, little touch of raw umber, and I want to do a little C stroke or a U. Actually, this one's going up. I'm going to do a little bit more of a U right there. Kind of get that in there. Let's dry that. All right, so along this side, I'm going to take I just have my, like a number 6 flat with some of the cobalt turquoise that I used for the background. I love to incorporate my background colors here and there, whether it's in the leaves or the flowers or my piece. I think it just adds a really nice harmony to your painting. So I'm going to wipe that off really well. And I'm going to dry brush a little bit. Probably not going to be able to see that. I think I wiped off too much. Little bit right over on this highlighted side. And then some cobalt turquoise, let's see, cobalt teal hue, just to brighten it up. Just a touch. Just a touch. Like a baby touch. You want your brush just to kind of kiss the corner Work that in. Slightly wiped it off on my paper towel, and I'm just going to brighten that up just a little. Oops, had a little white from my paper towel, but guess what? I kind of like that. All right, just a little bit of that blue. Okay, let's take care of these leaves. Same exact thing we did before. Payne's gray, sap green, and we're just gonna kind of pull these out. Try not to get them too much on those petals. I don't have one. I have a little one there, but I want one there. So wipe it off. I always want to show you my palette. It's so hard to show you. So, but sap green, because I think sometimes it's important to see how you load that brush. I can tell you what I'm doing, but when you see it, you see how little paint I'm using and a little bit of Titan Buff. Work that in. Swipe it across my paper towel, and I'm going to highlight. Swiped off too much. Okay, just very, very light. And I am going to add a little tiny touch of the cobalt teal hue, just a couple. All right, let's go to this guy. Okay, this one's quick and easy, just like the top one, but it has a fun back to it. And kind of my thing when I was creating this page, I wanted to show, like the side of a sunflower, just not to have all three of them looking cookie cutter exactly the same, because there's so many different techniques of just seeing a side of a flower. This one isn't straight on. You have some angles, you have some flips. But I love the back of a sunflower with all those little green leaves and everything. And that's such a cool technique to put those on. Loose, light, and fun. So let's go back to our flat brush. All right, base coat it again with the yellow oxide. I'm gonna come in, let's push this up, see if I can get some of my palette on here. Load it up with some of picked up the wrong color. I picked up Hansa Yellow Light. We need to do Dari Light or Saffron Yellow. Okay, just a little bit of paint. We're gonna pull that on. Right now, it doesn't matter if I get into those green leaves. I'm not even sure. I can see some of the line drawing still, but if you paint this, and again on your pattern packet, see how I just left those unpainted because I know I want to put in some dark color there first. All right, so that's Dari Light Yellow. I have a little one right there that's green. And then Hansa Yellow Light, pick that up on my brush, swipe. Again, tip, slide, swipe it on. Not pushing hard. If you push hard, you go right through the paint. So swipe and flick your brush. Very little pressure. I don't even know if that's a petal, but it is a petal now. Okay, so that's the Hansa Yellow Light. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of Titan Buff. And this one, like the top one, is going to get a little bit of extra treatment around it with some shading because you're looking at the back of it. We want to separate that from the greenery that we're going to put on. Hansa Yellow Light, little bit of Titan Buff. I'm just swiping it. Just soften that look. Okay. Alrighty. So now we are going to go ahead and put our green on, but instead of using the mixture where I put more, about equal amounts of Payne's Gray Sap Green, this time I want to use more of the Payne's Gray. So I'll get a little bit more out of that Payne's Gray because I want this nice and rich and dark. So more of the Payne's Gray. And I'm just going to slide. So watch, slide, pull to the tip. The illusion of, the look of those green leaves. Okay, and can come right back in here. I can even put some out there, right up next to that stem. Nice and dark to start. Okay, I'm not liking this. It's a little too exact. So I'm just gonna swipe my brush. Oop, a little too far. All right, now I'm gonna wipe off that brush. I'm gonna pick up some sap green, just a touch, green gold, a little bit of Titan Buff. Swipe it across my paper towel, and I'm gonna come in right on top of these and just improvise and put in slide, pull. Okay, I can slide from here and pull out, tiny little simple leaf, touch and pull. I do like to slide and pull toward that center too. And again, nothing exact, just kind of swipe those on, just like that. Now we do want to make sure that our stem looks like it's grounded. So if you need a little more Payne's gray there, you can certainly, so it kind of just goes right into those leaves, right? Now let's dry this, dry that up. And sometimes it does get a little hot, and so I don't know why, it's habit, but usually because my hands are freezing cold, I like the warmth of that. But you don't want to go straight to your piece once it's done because it's hot. It's going to grab that paint right off your brush. So just kind of make sure it's cooled off if I didn't say that before. All right, now I do want to come in with my angle brush. So I'm just going to come back to my 1/4 inch angle because I have it right here. Pick up a little bit of the Quinacridone Gold and just loosely lay that in. The toe of the brush has the paint, and the toe of the brush is right up underneath where I want to lay that paint. So I'm just going to pop in some of that, bring in some of that warmth, some of that sunflower color that you see. Dry that. Okay, wipe off my brush. I'm going to pick up just a touch of raw umber. Work that in. Both sides. Swipe my paper towel if I feel like I have too much, and I can come in and separate some of these petals, not all of them. Again, I don't want it to look cookie cutter, just want it to look like we've got a lot of different petals there. And then a little bit of that darker brown in some of those places where I put the Quinacridone Gold, especially down here where it would be probably a little darker, not where the light source is coming from. All right, and I do want to come up here with a little bit more of that Quinacridone Gold. Swipe. Now the Quinacridone Gold, little tiny touch of raw umber on the corner of that brush too. You can swipe on that stem. Again, because these paints are transparent, you see what's underneath it. They just layer beautifully. All right, let's come back. Just when I held that up, I see I need to separate some of these from the stem. So a little Payne's gray. Oops, too much Payne's gray. I could come in if I wanted to separate any of these leaves a little bit more with some of that Payne's gray and separate it from the stem. Okay, just like that. Let me zoom out just a little. All right, so next, one of my favorite parts, and that's the cast shadow. So on this finished page, you can see my cast shadow makes it look like those are lifted up off the paper, right? So that one right there, again, the Payne's gray is going to do that for us in a flat brush. So, oh, thank you, Linda Safranco. Appreciate you. All right, so I have it's like a number 4 flat. Water in my brush. I'm going to pick up tiny touch of Payne's gray and work that in. And I like to test it. So test it on another piece of paper or on the back, just to make sure it's not too dark. If it is, you just need to add more water. Okay, and I want to come, so instead of floating the color right up underneath it, I'm taking this brush right next to it, and I'm just going to pull it down. Now you can't see that on camera. I can't see it on my screen, so I'm going to bump that up just a little more. And you're just floating that color on to mimic the stem. All right, same thing over here. I can come to the stem, but it's coming away from it. That's going to give it that cast shadow. Okay, and then same thing under. Don't have a big one here. It's actually, I have a little more of my stem there. And then I'm just going to float that right up underneath that leaf. Okay, and I want to soften that just a little. Same thing under some of the petals, not all of them, but I could come in that inky paint, do a little bit of a shadow under some of those to make that stand out. Okay, so see how that makes it? Yeah, love that. All right, let's get a little bit more. Come over here to this one, and I'm going to start, because this is so transparent, I can start right on here. I want to mimic the shape of that, I almost said branch, mimic the shape of that stem. Okay, and then I can just shade in right there. Okay, now let's come up to this one. And on my finished one, I don't even see a shadow on this one. I must have forgotten, but I'm going to do a little shadow there and a little shadow there of that leaf. Okay, come back up here, same thing. Can add in just some Payne's gray, very light, loose, what look like cast shadows from those petals. Same thing down here. Now, if I wanted to add, I do want to, let me show you. 1/4 inch angle. I'll come in with some raw umber on the toe of that angle brush, and I can come right up underneath there, separate those from that background just a little bit more. Okay, so see how that will just lift it up right off that page. Okay. Splatter. I'm going to look at the comments. Hard for me to be loose. Been painting tight and detailed for so long. Denise, I totally understand what you're talking about. I was a very tight, controlled painter for a long time. And you know what loosened me up? Playing the very first time I played in an art journal. Okay, let me make sure everything is dry. We're going to give a border to this page. We're going to sprinkle it with some paint. And then we're going to use this absolutely gorgeous stencil that Lana Lamb has. All right. So I'm going to take a baby wipe. You probably have seen me do this technique before. I was going to zoom out, but I think it'll be good if I just turn my page. Okay. So I'm going to take a baby wipe. It's got a little bit of dampness to it. Wrap it around my finger. You want to make sure your baby wipe doesn't have lotion in it. All right, I don't have any with alcohol or lotion, just plain baby wipes. And I like Huggies. So, all right, I'm gonna pick up some raw umber, and I'm gonna run that right over here, just like if I were loading the toe of an angle brush. And I'm going to hand on the inside of your page, round the corner, right over that sunflower. Which, look how pretty that is. How it just pushed it right into that page. Now these can be a little tricky. So I just touch, kind of tap and push away. Get a little bit more. Tap and push away. But the key is your hand has to be on the inside of your surface. Round the corner, round the corner. Now, if you wanted to deepen that at all, you could deepen it with a little bit of Payne's Gray. Okay, so I just added a little Payne's Gray right over that raw umber. Again, just kind of tap that right down the side. Again, little Payne's Gray. And see what I did when I came to my runway? I just did it right there. So Payne's Gray. Kind of darken those corners. And then again, tap, tap, tap. And then just take your baby wipe and clean up your space. Now, if my other side was already done, I would have varnished it because as you can see, it does get a little bit of paint on it. And I check it often if I've already got something painted on here and I just wipe it off. So, but there is our border on our page. I stuck my finger there. And let's dry that. Oh, good question, Henriette. So, and I'll show you on the other side. Henriette asked, why do you want your hand on the inside of the page? If my hand is out here, do you see what I get? I get a straight line. You don't want that. So if your hand's on the inside, you can take that color to the edge, but then it bleeds. Okay, so see, almost like if I used an angle brush to get that floated color on. Whereas with your hand on the outside, you're going to get a very strong line on the border of that page. So always have your wrist on the inside of your piece. Okay, fantastic question. All right, splatter. I'm going to go back to my number 8 flat. Pick up some. First color I'm going to pick up, let's get some turquoise. So cobalt turquoise hue. Oh, thank you so much for asking that question. That was, and I'm glad it did a very straight line like I knew it would. Okay, so wet brush, very wet. Pick up some cobalt turquoise hue. The handle of a brush over the handle of a brush. You can use a toothbrush and get some of that fly specking. I like the look of this splatter. So I'm going to handle of the brush. I can control where it goes a little bit, but of course splatter's going to go where it wants to. But I can direct it, meaning the handle of the brush, the head of the brush with the paint. I know it's going to pretty much go here. Now I'm going to rinse that off quickly. And if I don't want it somewhere, just go ahead and, you know, mush that into the background. I don't like big spots like that. And I don't want too much on my sunflower, especially if it's like just a dot. If I have several dots, I'll leave it. But I don't want like a dot here and a dot there and a dot there. All right. So rinse off my brush. I'm going to come into some Titan Buff. Okay. Now, the Titan Buff, again, I want to kind of direct where it's going to go. So I know I want to put some here, a little bit up there, there, and there. Rinse out my brush. Again, take away some of that splatter where you don't want it. And then I'm going to take a paper towel. All right, so I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm just going to lightly touch. And that's going to do something that I love with the splatter, and it's to soften it. Okay, it's going to give it a stained look. Let me hold that up so you can see, let it focus. It just softens the splatter a little bit more, okay? So, and then finally for this page is the stencil. And guys, this is such a fantastic stencil. And if you have not checked out her website, my good friend Lana Lamb has some beautiful patterns, stencils, surfaces. She's got a YouTube channel. She's just an amazing talent, great friend. And I loved this stencil when I saw it, and I knew it would be perfect for this page. Now, if you want to use any other stencil, you can. Fall, gather. You don't have to have a word, but I do like to put words on my pages, okay? So I'm just gonna line it up, load up my stencil brush. I'm using the Dynasty Stencil Pro. I have these on my website. Fantastic stencil brush. In fact, I wish I had written down, I think it was Valerie, that said she finally broke down and got some good quality stencil brushes. She ordered these from me and had to let me know how amazing they are. I totally agree. All right, so I'm gonna load it up with some Titan Buff, and I wanted this soft and subtle. I didn't want it in your face, just, you know, the look of a little stencil design there, a word, loaded up on your brush, wipe almost all of it off. Okay, and this stencil is a little bit longer than my page, so I want the R, I want that whole thing on, and I'm going to, I had that go right off the page there. And I'm going to line it up right where the tabs end. That will be a good little indicator. Okay, you could tape it in place, but I'm lazy, so I'm just going soft circular motion. Counterclockwise, clockwise. Soft circular motion. And again, I wanted this so faint that I probably don't need to add any more paint to it. I just wanted it to be subtle. Just like that. Isn't that pretty? Oh, such a great stencil. All right, guys, I think that is our lesson. We did the sunflowers and the stems. I'm just looking to see if there's anything I missed. We got the splatter on there. You could splatter with some white. I do like to use sometimes the colors that I've used in the background. I like to use that in my splatter. So again, that Titan Buff, the cobalt turquoise hue, and I could have used some Quinacridone Gold. So yes, that Dynasty brush stencil set is amazing, isn't it? All right, guys, so I think that is our lesson. The lights always do a number on my hair. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, would love for you to do that. Again, my membership group is opening up next month. You will see more lives from me between now and when that happens. And then I will be back with a live here on my page, free lesson for my Be Happy design. I just have to write the directions. So gotta get those written, and then I will be back on the 3rd of October with another live, and I'll announce the winners for the giveaways for today. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much. Don't forget that you can find out more about my membership group on my website. Y'all have a great, fantastic, creative week. All right? See you soon. Bye.